We are still lingering near the edge of that elevated royal bed, feeling the coolness radiating from the stone floor beneath, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat outside the palace walls. Remember the incredible effort it took just to raise this sleeping platform? This bed is not merely a piece of furniture, it is an altar of rest. Its height, as mentioned in the previous section, is no accident. Think of it as the ultimate status symbol, silently declaring, "I sleep closer to the gods than you do." The construction details are truly fascinating, and frankly, somewhat excessive, but in the best possible way. The supports are rarely just simple wooden legs. They are often elaborately carved into effigies of protective creatures such as the sturdy lion or the fearsome hippopotamus goddess Taweret, whose role was to ward off the demons of the night. You certainly wouldn't want to bump into those supports in the dark, but they radiate a sense of heavy, ancient security. Lying here, you begin to notice the subtle design choices that prioritize firmness over softness. We know there is no memory foam, but the sleeping surface itself, often a solid wooden frame topped with a finely woven lattice of reeds or leather straps, provided a highly breathable and stable foundation. This is a crucial distinction from the modern pursuit of plushness. Ancient wisdom suggests that the body truly rests when it is fully and firmly supported, not when it sinks. This forces the spine to maintain a neutral alignment, which, frankly, is probably why pharaohs never needed chiropractors. Upon this firm base lay the prized Egyptian linen, woven from flax, naturally cool and smooth. It feels crisp and light against the skin, offering the perfect counterbalance to the dry, warm air of the desert night. And speaking of the bedding, the sheer quantity and quality of the linen itself were staggering. The linen used in the royal chamber was often so fine it was nearly transparent, a true testament to the skill of ancient weavers. This was not merely about comfort, it was a form of ritual purification. Each morning, the linen would be removed, washed, and meticulously pressed, ready for the next descent into the duat. This regular ritual ensured the space was always pristinely clean, free of dust or negative energy, far removed from leaving your bed unmade until noon on a Sunday. This level of luxury was common among ancient elites, but the Egyptian dedication to cleanliness is a fascinating and lesser-known fact that rivals any modern obsession with thread count. The entire structure of the bedchamber, particularly the thick walls, also served another spiritual purpose: containment. When the pharaoh slept, his Ba, the soul's personality, was free to roam, while his Ka, the life force, remained tethered to his body. The robust architecture and the precise elevation of the bed ensured that the Ka stayed safely anchored while the Ba embarked on its nightly journeys. The chamber was therefore not merely a room, but a fortified harbor for both the pharaoh's mortal and immortal essence. You can feel that profound, weighty sense of security pressing in around you, a safety that makes deep sleep not only permissible, but almost obligatory. Historians still debate the exact number of linen layers used, but what remains consistent is the preference for stability and coolness over excessive softness. You might be wondering, surely a king would have a soft rug, or perhaps a servant gently fanning him throughout the night? While attendants were certainly nearby, the floor covering was likely nothing more than cool, swept stone, or possibly simple reed mats. Once again, the goal was not insulation, but convection, managing airflow and maintaining coolness. Any heavy rug would only trap heat, an amateur mistake the Egyptians would never make. You appreciate the cool air settling over your body, soothing the residual warmth of the day. You are safely nested, held between the cool stone floor and the elevated wooden platform, ready to let go of the physical world. Hey guys, tonight we leave the cozy, drafty medieval bedrooms we explored last time and trade the scent of damp straw for the dry, warm air of the Egyptian desert. Tonight, we're heading back 4,000 years to explore a truly sacred space, the sleeping chamber of the pharaoh. Close your eyes and imagine the smooth, cool stone walls, the faint, exotic aroma of incense lingering in the air, and the absolute stillness that comes only from being protected by massive and thick stone. You're floating down the Nile River on a quiet barge, the water barely making a sound against the reeds, heading toward the massive, silent shadow of a pyramid under the vast, inky blanket of the desert sky. If you were actually here, traversing the ancient Nile at night, you'd probably worry about crocodiles, bandits, and definitely not having any air conditioning. You definitely wouldn't survive the mosquitoes. Let's be honest. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you are listening from tonight and what time it is for you in the comments below. Knowing we share this quiet moment across the globe is a strangely comforting thought. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Have you ever wondered if sleep could be a journey, an adventure of the soul, a sacred ritual rather than merely the body's rest? Thousands of years ago, in the land of majestic pyramids and the legendary Nile River, the powerful pharaohs deeply understood this. For them, sleep was not just a biological necessity, but a spiritual commitment, a gateway to renewal and infinite power. And you tonight are going to borrow that ancient power for your own rest. Join me as we step back in time to the kingdom of ancient Egypt, where every action of the king held cosmic significance. The pharaoh, considered the embodiment of the divine on earth, had a noble mission to maintain cosmic order and bring prosperity to his people. To fulfill this destiny, his sleep could not be arbitrary. It was a profound spiritual commitment, mirroring the nocturnal journey of the sun god Ra himself. Each time Ra descended below the horizon, he embarked on a voyage through the underworld, battling the darkness to be gloriously reborn at dawn. The pharaoh's sleep was likewise symbolic of renewal, of the endless cycle of life and death, of darkness and light. It was a time for his soul to detach from his mortal body, journeying to sacred realms to absorb energy, listen to the whispers of the cosmos, and return with renewed wisdom and strength for the new day. This entire process was a political and religious requirement, proving that the king was indeed blessed. The historians still argue whether a pharaoh with chronic insomnia would have been quietly replaced, but we can assume the pressure was immense. To prepare for this grand and meaningful spiritual journey, the pharaoh's sleeping space could be no ordinary place. Your first impression of the royal arrangements is the extreme elevation of the bed. It was always positioned significantly higher above the floor, often crafted as an elevated platform supported by carved lion figures or serene deities. This elevation offered clear, practical benefits, like avoiding the dust, the occasional scorpion, or the evening drafts that sweep through the desert climate. But more importantly, it held a deep symbolic meaning. It was an invisible bridge, a sacred connection point between the earthly realm the pharaoh ruled and the celestial realm where the gods resided. It was an altar of rest where the physical body could be stabilized while the soul was free to soar, communing with the divine world, seeking guidance and inspiration that no living advisor could offer. The architecture was designed for absolute tranquility. The pharaoh's bedroom, often situated deep within the opulent palace complex or within a grand, thick-walled stone structure, was built with massive, solid stone walls. These walls not only provided absolute physical security and stability, but also created perfect, complete soundproofing. This combination of absolute stillness and stable temperature created a truly unique environment where the pharaoh's mind could completely detach from all the daily chaos, the burdens of power, and sink deep into tranquility for total restoration and renewal. It was a historical practice far superior to simply blasting air conditioning in your bedroom today. The bed itself, despite its profound spiritual significance, was designed with astonishing practicality and sophistication. It was often crafted from sturdy hardwood or solid alabaster, providing a firm, stable surface for the pharaoh's body. The bedding was made from thin, soft, and remarkably breathable linen, the ideal fabric for Egypt's hot and arid climate. This perfect combination of a firm, supportive surface and the cool, comfortable feel of the linen helped the pharaoh achieve a deep, uninterrupted, and truly restorative sleep, optimally preparing him for the heavy responsibilities of a king, the head of a great civilization. But the most fascinating and frankly hilarious difference is the pillow. You look at your own soft, sinking pillow, and then you see the pharaoh's, the notorious crescent headrest. Now that you are settled on the firm, cool linen of the elevated bed, your attention inevitably turns to the most unique and strangely uncomfortable piece of the entire setup, the infamous crescent-shaped headrest. Do not imagine our fluffy cotton pillows. This is a carved block of wood, ivory, or even polished stone, shaped with a curved arch to support the neck and jaw. It feels strange, doesn't it? But its purpose was not softness, it was absolute stability. Upon first sight, many might mistakenly believe this pillow was merely a symbol of power or a lavish decorative item. In reality, its original purpose was quite practical, to protect the elaborate wigs and complex hairstyles that pharaohs often wore. Wigs were not just fashion, they were symbols of status and elegance. A traditional sleep could damage these styled masterpieces, and the crescent-shaped pillow cleverly solved this problem by keeping the head from direct contact with a flat surface, preserving the monarch's majestic appearance even in slumber. It's like an ancient royal neck brace designed by a very meticulous hairdresser. This is a fascinating little-known fact that shows even the divine required practical solutions for morning routines. However, beyond that superficial purpose, the deeper meaning of the headrest lay in its spiritual aspect. For the ancient Egyptians, the head was not merely a part of the body, it was considered the sacred dwelling place of the soul, the center of wisdom, emotions, and the self. When the pharaoh drifted into sleep, the soul was believed to be most vulnerable, susceptible to evil forces or negative influences entering the mind. The crescent-shaped pillow was not just a physical support, but also served as a powerful spiritual shield, an invisible barrier protecting the pharaoh's soul and mind from all unseen dangers. It was a symbol of divine protection, ensuring that even in an unconscious state, the monarch remained safeguarded, preserving their purity and power. You can feel that sense of ancient protection radiating from the cool, hard material against your neck. This headrest also provided astonishing physical stillness. By keeping the head still and aligned, it helped maximize relaxation of the neck and shoulder muscles, alleviating tension accumulated after a long day of ruling the land. This physical stillness not only brought comfort, but also served as a prerequisite for mental tranquility. When the body was kept still, the mind could more easily achieve a state of profound peace. In a world filled with the worries and responsibilities of a pharaoh, the ability to find such stillness was invaluable. It was not merely rest, but a complete restoration, both physical and mental, helping the pharaoh remain clear-headed and astute in making crucial decisions for the kingdom. Scholars still debate whether the long-term use of these headrests contributed to any cervical spine issues, but their spiritual value clearly outweighed any physical discomfort. The importance of these headrests was further emphasized by an ancient custom. They were often buried with the deceased. This was not merely a ritual, but a profound belief in the soul's journey after death. The pillow was regarded as a companion, an essential protective item for the soul on its mysterious journey to the afterlife. It ensured that even in eternity, the pharaoh's soul remained protected, supported, and preserved in its purity. Now, let the firmness of that ancient device transfer its unyielding peace to your own mind. As you lie still, letting the firmness of the elevated bed and the strange stability of the headrest anchor your body, your senses shift. We move past the touch and the security of the stone to the subtle elements that truly define royal luxury: scent and air. This is where the pharaoh truly differentiated his sleep from the commoners. The air in the chamber is remarkable. It's dry, clean, and pleasantly cool, a stark contrast to the dust-choked heat that still clings to the outside world. This clean air wasn't accidental. The thick stone walls, as we mentioned, acted as superb insulation, but the air quality was enhanced with deliberate rituals. You feel a gentle, almost imperceptible air current moving around you, preventing stagnation. This clean air was crucial, not just for physical comfort, but for spiritual purity. The Egyptians believed that a clean, dry environment kept away the physical and spiritual causes of illness. It was like sleeping in a giant, naturally air-conditioned spiritual purification room. Historians still debate the exact mechanical methods used to ensure this airflow without drafts, often pointing to cleverly positioned air vents high up in the palace walls that caught the desert's high night breezes. Now, breathe in deeply. The most defining luxury of this chamber is the fragrance. Forget heavy perfumes. This is a subtle, grounding aroma emanating from sacred resins, myrrh and frankincense. These aren't cheap scents. They are ritual substances used in temples to communicate with the gods. Now they are dedicated to your sleep. They carry a deep, warm, slightly spicy scent that signals to your ancient brain that you are in a safe, protected, and holy place. These sacred resins were believed to cleanse the air of impurities and ward off any lingering negative entities before they even had a chance to disrupt the Pharaoh's duat journey. Think of it as a 4,000-year-old, all-natural air purifier with deep spiritual benefits. You can compare this to the calming effect of modern essential oils, only magnified by the weight of religious significance. Next, focus on the fabric against your skin. The linen. This isn't your average fabric. It's the finest linen, woven from flax, almost sheer in its quality. It feels incredibly smooth, cool, and crisp. Linen is naturally breathable and pulls moisture away from the skin, making it the perfect choice for the hot Egyptian climate. The sheets would be changed daily, a ritual act of purification that removed the dust of the day's responsibilities and ensured the pharaoh started his nightly journey pristine and unburdened. This dedication to cleanliness and quality is a fascinating little-known fact of Egyptian court life, demonstrating how the spiritual and the hygienic were completely inseparable. The harmonious combination of the perfect scent, the cool, purified air, and the smooth, crisp linen creates an environment that speaks directly to the subconscious. It tells you, release the heat, release the tension, release the burdens. This is a space of ultimate control and sanctity. You don't need to hold on to the energy of the day because this environment is actively supporting your surrender. You might find it funny to think about how much effort went into this. Imagine the servants meticulously burning the exact right amount of myrrh, ensuring the airflow wasn't too fast, and folding those fine linens just so. It's almost comically over the top, but the result is a perfect cocoon for deep, uninterrupted rest. Scholars still debate the exact chemical composition of the sedative herbs, sometimes mixed into the resins, suggesting that the calming effect wasn't entirely spiritual, but rather a combination of ancient pharmacology and profound faith. Let the scent of those ancient resins now carry you further away from the conscious world. You are resting perfectly still on the elevated bed, breathing in the scent of myrrh and frankincense, feeling the cool linen against your skin. The stillness is absolute, but you are not alone. All around the chamber, subtle signs of protection affirm that this space is consecrated for the king's safe spiritual passage. We move now to the objects designed to actively fight off chaos, the amulets and charms. For the ancient Egyptians, these small, intricately crafted objects were not merely jewelry or decorations. They were powerful, functional pieces of spiritual technology, each imbued with a specific purpose, a 4,000-year-old version of a heavy-duty security system. Only this one guarded the soul. The placement of these amulets was meticulously planned around the bed, forming an invisible perimeter of divine energy. The most pervasive of these is the famous Eye of Horus, Wajet. You can see this symbol carved into the footboard of the bed, perhaps painted on the wall facing the entrance, or even worn as a heavy pectoral necklace resting on the pharaoh's chest. The Eye of Horus symbolizes protection, healing, and wholeness. Its gaze is eternally vigilant, watching over the vulnerable sleeper and warding off the malevolent spirits or ill wishes that might try to sneak past the stone walls. It's like having a cosmic security camera always active, always focused on your safety. Another crucial guardian is the scarab beetle. This beetle, which Egyptians observed rolling balls of dung across the ground, was associated with the sun god Khepri, who pushed the sun across the sky and was responsible for its daily rebirth. The scarab symbolized renewal, creation, and the promise of resurrection. Placing this amulet near the bed served as a constant, gentle reminder to the sleeping soul that no matter how deep the descent into the darkness of the duat, rebirth, the successful awakening at dawn, was guaranteed. It's the ultimate sleep assurance policy. This is a common historical item, but its function as a psychological tool for rest is a fascinating little-known fact. You might also see images of the dwarf god Bes, the protector of sleep, music, and childbirth. Unlike the majestic, serene deities, Bes was often depicted with a cheerful, slightly frightening face. meant to scare away nightmares and dangerous spirits through grotesque humor. He was the comic relief in the spiritual security detail. The image of Bez would often be carved onto the legs of the bed or painted onto small pots near the sleeping area. Historians still debate the extent of Bez's popularity among the royal family versus the common people, but his function as a shield against night terrors is clear. These amulets were typically crafted from powerful, beautiful materials: deep blue lapis lazuli for the heavens and divine protection, vibrant carnelian for life and energy, and sometimes polished gold for the flesh of the gods. The material was not just for show, it was believed to amplify the amulet's protective energy. As you lie there, you feel the subtle, collective power of these materials and symbols working together, creating a safe, impermeable layer between your sleeping mind and the chaos of the outside world. The ultimate aim of all these charms, from the headrest to the scarab, was to achieve tefnut, the state of perfect calm and complete detachment necessary for the Pharaoh's soul to undertake its nightly journey smoothly. You are completely safe, surrounded by the best ancient security money could buy, allowing your soul to prepare for its most important nightly mission. In the silent night of the ancient Egyptian desert, where stars glittered like diamonds on a velvet canvas, you realize that sleep is not merely a physical rest, but a mysterious journey, a silent battle for the very survival of the universe. For us today, sleep is often a period for the body and mind to recover after a long day. But thousands of years ago, along the legendary Nile, the ancient Egyptians believed that sleep was a gateway, an invisible thread connecting humanity to sacred dimensions and the profound mysteries of the cosmos. And no one bore this weighty responsibility more heavily than the Pharaoh. Imagine, you are now resting upon your exquisitely carved bed. You are not merely a monarch ruling a mighty empire, but a living god, a bridge between the mortal world and the divine realm. Every breath, every beat of your heart carries cosmic significance. And your sleep, dear friend, is no mere personal event. It is fundamentally, inseparably linked to the perilous nocturnal journey of the sun god Ra. Each time the sun set, Ra, the supreme deity who brought life and light, began his journey through the underworld, also known as Duat. This was no leisurely stroll, but a life or death struggle against the forces of chaos, especially the colossal serpent Apep, the embodiment of darkness and destruction. Ra had to defeat Apep every night to be reborn at dawn, bringing light and order back to the world. And the Pharaoh, in his sleep, was the silent companion, the spiritual anchor, ensuring Ra's victory. Can you imagine that burden? When the Pharaoh succumbed to sleep, his soul was believed to journey alongside Ra through the mysterious lands of Duat. His profound slumber was not merely a sign of physical health, but a symbol of cosmic harmony. Each peaceful sleep of the king was an affirmation of the universe's stability, of the balance between order and chaos, and of Ra's successful rebirth each morning. For this reason, insomnia for the king was not just a personal health issue. It was a spiritual crisis, a terrifying omen of cosmic imbalance, potentially threatening the very survival of the entire kingdom. A king unable to rest peacefully was a king unable to guarantee the safety of Ra's journey, and that could lead to a dawn that never came. Within this sacred context, the concept of dreams was also perceived entirely differently. For the ancient Egyptians, dreams were not random neural impulses, meaningless patchwork images created by the brain during rest. No, they believed dreams were divine messages, direct communications from the gods, from departed ancestors, or prophecies of the future, conveyed to those capable of receiving them. Dreams were a language of the soul, a window revealing truths invisible to the waking world. Thus, dream interpretation was not a mere pastime or superstition, but a serious practice, a spiritual science held in the highest esteem. This is a common event for the Pharaoh, where every night carried immense consequence. Historians still debate the true extent of the psychological strain this belief placed upon the ruling class, but the need for continuous deep sleep was paramount. You feel the weight of that cosmic responsibility as you drift deeper, your mind entering the phase where the duat begins. Since dreams were divine messages, the king couldn't risk misinterpreting a sign that might foretell a famine or a foreign invasion. The palace always housed a group of erudite dream interpreters, individuals with profound knowledge of symbolism and mythology. They often used ancient dream books written on papyrus as their guides. These books contain thousands of examples of dreams and their meanings, accumulated over generations. For instance, dreaming of a snake could be an omen of good or ill, depending on the snake's actions. Seeing clear water might signify purification and prosperity, while murky water foretold hardship. The Pharaoh frequently recounted his dreams to these individuals the moment he awoke, and together they would study and deduce to offer crucial advice for the kingdom's decisions. Imagine the pressure of being the dream interpreter who had to tell the Pharaoh that his dream of falling teeth meant something bad was coming. Scholars often argue that the organized practice of dream interpretation in ancient Egypt was one of the world's first forms of applied psychology, merging superstition with careful observation. To encourage these prophetic dreams and ensure the king's soul could travel smoothly on its cosmic journey. His sleeping quarters were meticulously protected, as we've seen, by sacred amulets and charms. The king's bed was not merely a place to rest, it was an energy nexus, a point of connection to the unseen realm. The amulets created a safe, sacred space where the king could confidently entrust his soul to its nocturnal journey, where he could receive precious messages from the gods, and where he could contribute to the grand rebirth of light each dawn. The entire ritual of sleep, from the scent of myrrh to the firm headrest, was designed to put the Pharaoh in a state of optimal spiritual receptivity. It's not about being completely unconscious. It's about achieving a deep trance-like stillness where the mind is quiet enough to hear the whispers of the cosmos. This is a fascinating, little-known fact. The Pharaoh was aiming for a form of deep, spiritual meditation through sleep, not just passing out from exhaustion. Each time the Pharaoh closed his eyes, it was not just a monarch going to sleep, but an entire universe preparing for a battle and a rebirth. This profound belief not only shaped how the ancient Egyptians viewed sleep and dreams, but also serves as a powerful reminder for us today that the life of each individual is not separate, but always part of a larger, more intricate tapestry. Your sleep, your dreams, and even your rest may carry a far deeper meaning than you've ever imagined. We may not be an Egyptian king, but each of us has a role in maintaining the order and beauty of the world around us. Let the thought of this ancient cosmic stability settle deep into your mind now. The heavy, profound silence of the chamber is now broken only by the steady, slow rhythm of your own breathing. But look beyond the mystical protections. The Pharaoh's safety was also ensured by a very human, very present security force and their non-human companions. We turn now to the servants and guards who kept watch while the divine ruler slept. The silence protocol around the royal sleeping area was absolute. Imagine being a palace attendant whose sole job was to remain motionless and silent near the king's chamber all night. The consequences for creating any audible disturbance, a cough, a dropped item, a loud shift of feet, could be severe, possibly even life-threatening, as it risked disrupting the sacred journey of Ra. This extreme measure ensured a level of quiet that is literally unattainable in our modern, always-on world. It was a silence policed by fear, but effective nonetheless. Historians still debate the exact punishment for breaking the silence protocol, but the fact that the protocol was so meticulously maintained suggests the penalty was incredibly high. Beyond the human guards, the Pharaoh's bed often had animal sentinels. We mentioned the cats in Section 5, revered as manifestations of the goddess Stateh. A royal cat curled up near the door wasn't just a pet, it was a revered guardian. Their purring, a subtle, low-frequency vibration, was one of the few acceptable sounds in the chamber, a soothing, natural metronome that was believed to possess healing and protective qualities. But the Pharaoh also had dogs. Royal hunting dogs, often breeds like the sleek Saluki or the rugged Pharaoh hound, were kept nearby, typically just outside the immediate chamber entrance. These dogs were symbols of fierce loyalty and protection, trained to maintain silence, but ready to alert the guards instantly at the slightest hint of a physical threat. Think of them as the most highly trained security dogs in history. Only their command was silence. This presence, the quiet human guards, the vigilant cats, and the silent, alert dogs, created a comprehensive, multi-layered security system. ensuring the pharaoh could surrender completely to the spiritual journey without fear of physical harm. This is a fascinating, little-known fact about the intersection of domestic life and royal security. The pharaoh's own body was prepared for this long period of rest too. Before retiring, he would often undergo a ritualistic cleansing and anointing. Imagine the smooth, cool feel of scented oil being applied to your body, specifically designed to relax the muscles and prepare the skin for the long night. This wasn't merely a bath, it was a purification ritual, shedding the dust and the burdens of the day, ensuring the body was clean and worthy of hosting the traveling soul. You feel the deep relaxation in your own limbs now, as if they too have been anointed with ancient, soothing oils. Scholars often argue that the Egyptians' meticulous hygiene was driven more by spiritual and religious reasons, purity for worship, than by modern scientific understanding of germs. But the outcome was the same, a profound sense of physical calm. Now we must gently pull back from the immense privilege of the royal chamber and look out across the Nile to where the vast majority of the Egyptian people found their rest. We contrast the pharaoh's carved bed and thick stone walls with the simple, necessary ingenuity of the common laborer. The world of the farmer, the artisan, and the pyramid builder was defined by heat, dust, and necessity. Their homes were simple, single-story mud brick dwellings, effective at trapping the heat during the day, but often oppressive at night. The true luxury for them was not expensive linen or scented oils, but the cool night air itself. Thus, a deeply ingrained cultural practice emerged, especially during the sweltering summer months, sleeping on the roof. Imagine climbing a simple external ladder onto the flat roof of your mud brick home. You lie down on a mat woven from reeds, under the enormous, silent, star-dusted canopy of the desert sky. This is a common scene, a universal nightly migration of the working classes across the ancient world. You are fully exposed, but you are also finally free of the heat clinging to the walls below. The bedding is starkly simple, a mat woven from reeds or rushes, sometimes a thin wool blanket for the cooler dawn hours. There is no intricate carving, no spiritual headrest. Instead, you might use a bundle of cloth or simply your arm to support your head. This sleep is practical, essential, and honest. It is the sleep of deep exhaustion after a long day of labor, not the meditative sleep of a divine ruler. Yet in its simplicity, there is a profound peace. You are connected directly to the vastness of the cosmos, with nothing but the cool air between you and the stars. You are part of the rhythm of nature, sleeping as the earth itself cools down. This experience is a fascinating little-known fact of daily life. The nighttime world of the common Egyptian was entirely different from the day. The roof became the most important room in the house after sundown. Families would gather, not just to sleep, but to eat their evening meal and talk, benefiting from the cooling breeze. This communal aspect, sleeping close to family and neighbors under the massive sky, provided a sense of security and belonging that transcended the simple need for rest. You can hear the distant, low murmur of conversations from neighboring rooftops now, a gentle, human hum against the silence of the desert. Historians still debate how frequently people were driven off the roofs by sudden rain showers, but the practice remained consistent because the need for coolness was simply too strong to ignore. You lie on the simple reed mat on the cool, flat rooftop, feeling the enormous relief of the desert night air against your skin. You are surrounded by the true, unfiltered soundscape of ancient Egypt. This is the lullaby of the people, the gentle background noise of a civilization tied intimately to the Nile. The loudest sound you hear is likely the wind, not a furious desert blast, but a soft, consistent night breeze sweeping over the dunes and across the river, bringing with it the subtle, earthy scent of the moist Nile mud and drying papyrus reeds. This wind acts as a natural white noise machine, smoothing out any sharp, distracting sounds. Close your eyes and listen closely for the delicate, rhythmic chirping of cicadas and night crickets rising from the fields near the riverbank. This constant, repetitive, high-frequency sound is the sound of life continuing, the background soundtrack to nature's own rest. It's a natural metronome, gently slowing your mind and easing you toward unconsciousness. The steady rhythm is entirely different from the profound, absolute silence mandated in the pharaoh's stone chamber, but it is deeply soothing in its own way. This reliance on nature's soundscape is a common practice among ancient cultures, but the specific song of the Egyptian night is unique. You can also hear the soft, distant, rhythmic sound of the Nile River itself, the low lapping of the water, perhaps the gentle creak of a distant sailboat being moored for the night. This is the sound of continuity, the sound of the lifeblood of the empire flowing ceaselessly. The sound of the Nile is the sound of prosperity and certainty, a profound comfort for people whose lives depended entirely on the river's predictable cycle of flood and recession. Scholars often argue that the soothing sound of flowing water found its way into Egyptian poetry and songs because it was such a powerful, positive sensory experience during the night. This simple comfort, the cool air, the vast, open sky, and the natural, repetitive sounds, was the luxury of the common person. It was a sleep of honest exhaustion and primal security, far removed from the spiritual burdens of the palace. They didn't need amulets to ward off demons. They had the simple reassurance of their family sleeping close by and the watchful presence of the millions of stars above. You realize that a good night's sleep doesn't always require gold and incense. Sometimes it just requires a cool breeze and the honest fatigue of a hard day's work. This is a fascinating little-known fact. The purest sleep in the kingdom may not have belonged to the king, but to the laborer sleeping soundly on his roof. We return now to the world of the palace, specifically to the problem of insomnia. While the pharaoh was divinely protected, even living gods can suffer from a restless mind. Imagine the panic in the court if the pharaoh woke up in the middle of the night, not for the scheduled watch period like the common people, but simply because he couldn't switch his mind off. Remember, the king's sleeplessness meant cosmic chaos was winning. So, the temple physicians and royal doctors had a fascinating and sometimes bizarre collection of ancient remedies for insomnia, a medical field considered absolutely vital to national security. The ancient Egyptians, despite their deep belief in spiritual protection, were also pragmatic and employed potent herbal pharmacology to induce sleep. The most powerful and common sleep aid came from the poppy plant. They would grind the seeds, which contained trace amounts of opiates, and mix the resulting paste with honey and fermented fruit wine. This mixture was administered by the royal physician, a powerful, ancient tranquilizer designed to gently guide the pharaoh back into the duat. This is one of the most reliable historical facts about ancient pharmacology, showing that they were masters of natural sedatives. Another bizarre remedy involved the lettuce plant. Now, you might scoff at lettuce, but the type grown in Egypt, Lactuca virosa, contains a milky white sap called lactucarium. This sap, especially when boiled down and concentrated, has mild sedative and analgesic properties. It was affectionately called opium lettuce. Imagine a royal physician solemnly handing the pharaoh a bowl of lettuce tea to cure his sleeplessness. It sounds hilarious, but it was considered a serious remedy. Scholars still debate the true efficacy of the lettuce tea, arguing it may have been more psychological than pharmacological, but it's a brilliant little-known fact about ancient home remedies. Beyond ingestion, there were external treatments. The pharaoh might have requested a calming massage with scented oils. Myrrh, again, was a popular choice, focusing on the neck, shoulders, and feet to physically release tension. Or, surprisingly, some temple doctors prescribed the application of cooling mud or clay compresses to the head or feet to draw heat away from the body, believing that an overheated head was the primary cause of sleeplessness. The intention was always the same: to slow the body and mind down enough so the soul could safely detach and begin its spiritual journey. You feel the relaxing effects of that ancient massage now, easing the tension from your modern life. The focus shifts again, drawing you deeper into the quietude of the ancient night. We move away from the busy court and the anxieties of the king to the subtle, powerful sounds of Thebes at night. Even in the most heavily soundproof chambers, some sounds persist, and they are the sounds of ancient permanence. Close your eyes and listen, not for the loud, but for the soft, repetitive, and deeply ancient sounds. Beyond the gentle lapping of the Nile, you can hear the low, constant hum of the desert wind, a subtle, sweeping sound that moves across the sands and whistles softly around the corners of the massive stone temples. It is a timeless sound, exactly the same wind that blew 4,000 years ago, and it carries with it no sense of urgency, only continuity. Let that soft, sweeping sound smooth out the wrinkles in your own mind. You might hear the rhythmic, distant braying of a donkey, or the muffled, repeated sound of a stone being ground somewhere far off in a worker's quarter, perhaps preparing grain for the morning. These are the sounds of life continuing its essential tasks, regardless of the darkness, a comforting reassurance of order. This is a common historical experience. The sounds of agricultural labor often continued well into the night. More mystifyingly, listen for the cry of the jackal on the distant dunes. The jackal was strongly associated with the god Anubis, the guide of the dead. This sound, though slightly eerie, was a confirmation of the spiritual reality of the night, a subtle reminder that the world of the dead and the duat were close, but under control. The cry of the jackal isn't a threat, it's a confirmation of the nightly ritual. And finally, the occasional low hoot of an owl perched high on a massive temple relief. The owl, a creature of the night, watches silently over the city. Its presence is neither good nor bad, simply observant. This combination, the wind, the water, the distant labor, and the watchful creatures, forms the true, ambient noise of the Egyptian night. It's a soundscape built entirely on natural rhythms, which your modern, overstimulated brain finds instantly calming. Scholars still debate the exact nocturnal feeding habits of all the animals in ancient Thebes, but their cries were certainly part of the common experience of night. We return briefly to the palace, focusing on the human element necessary to maintain the pharaoh's cosmic rest, the servants and the sleep chamber protocol. The lives of the high-ranking palace attendants were entirely dictated by the king's need for tranquility. The most important servant protocol was the absolute silence rule. These attendants were responsible for ensuring the pharaoh's needs were met without creating any sound. This meant padding their sandals with soft leather, communicating only through subtle hand gestures, and never ever coughing or sneezing. Imagine being so terrified of making a sound that you hold your breath for minutes at a time. The tension was immense, yet the required result was absolute calm. This requirement for silent service is a fascinating little-known fact that shows the rigid hierarchy of the court. Their duties included standing guard near the chamber entrance, carefully tending the incense burner, ensuring the scent was consistent but not overwhelming, and monitoring the fire in the small brazier to maintain the perfect cool temperature without smoke. They were the silent, vigilant keepers of the threshold between the mortal world and the duat. The servant's schedule was a version of segmented sleep, but one dictated by royal duty. They would rest in shifts in an antechamber, ready to spring silently to the pharaoh's side if summoned. They couldn't afford the luxury of deep, dreamless sleep. They needed to maintain a state of wakeful vigilance, a light, easily broken rest. Contrast this with the deep, required slumber of the king. It highlights the profound inequality of rest in the ancient world. Historians often argue that the stress of the silence protocol made the servant's job one of the most psychologically taxing in the palace. Despite the stress, the servants were also the keepers of the king's secrets. They knew his routines, his anxieties, and his waking moments. They heard the first words spoken upon awakening, which were often dreams to be interpreted. They were the living link between the sleeping god and his waking empire. Now, let the silent, soft presence of these watchful figures add another layer of security to your own rest. You are being guarded with ancient, meticulous care. The night journey is coming to its close. You feel a shift in the air, a subtle lightening of the deep darkness outside the chamber walls. This is the moment of the pharaoh's morning awakening ritual, the king's glorious rebirth, and the affirmation that Ra has successfully defeated Apep. The awakening was a highly formalized event, just as sacred as the descent into sleep. The attendant, having monitored the light shift, would approach the bed, not with a jarring alarm, but with a series of gentle, prescribed actions. The ritual often involved a soft chanting or a gentle touch on the arm, often accompanied by the subtle scent of fresh lotus flowers, symbolizing the new day's creation. The goal was to ease the pharaoh back from the spiritual world of the duat to the physical world of governance, ensuring the soul's full, smooth return to the body. The very first action the pharaoh took was often not to rise, but to speak. These were the first words of the day, usually recounting the dreams received during the night. The dream interpreters would be on standby, ready to record and analyze these visions, which held the prophecies for the day ahead. This emphasizes the immediate, direct importance of the king's sleep. Its product, the dream, was instantly put into service of the state. The pharaoh would then rise from the elevated bed, a symbolic act of ascending from the underworld back to the throne of the living. He would be anointed with fresh, purifying oils and clothed in new, clean linen. The old linen, imbued with the energies of the duat journey, would be ritually disposed of or purified. The entire sequence, from the gentle touch to the donning of fresh linen, was a silent, powerful affirmation that order Ma'at had prevailed over chaos, Isfet. You feel that gentle pull back toward wakefulness now, but without any sense of jarring urgency. Let the thought of gentle touch and soft chanting ease you. Your awakening is a sign of your own personal rebirth, your successful journey through the darkness of unconsciousness. Historians still debate the exact sequence of the morning ritual, but the emphasis on dreams and purification is a constant. The journey through the pharaoh's night is complete. You are no longer in the palace chamber or on the rooftop. You are simply resting in your own space, deeply, profoundly relaxed. We take the final moments to connect the ancient wisdom of Egypt to your present moment. You may not be a king, but you are the ruler of your internal kingdom. The lessons are clear. The importance of firm support over excessive softness, the necessity of absolute silence and clean, cool air, and the deep spiritual need for protection before you surrender to the dark. Close your eyes one last time. Feel the gentle, eternal presence of the Nile River flowing beside you. The river flows ceaselessly, connecting the ancient world to the modern, carrying all the dust, the dreams, and the history along its quiet path. Let the eternal Nile symbolize the unending nature of rest and renewal. It flows and you rest. It flows and you are reborn. There is no urgency in that flow, only steady, profound continuity. Let the final anxieties of your day flow out of you and into that river. Let the heavy burden of your modern responsibilities be lifted by the strength of the massive stone walls we explored. Your body is supported, your mind is shielded by ancient power, and your soul is assured of its return. You have completed your personal journey into the duat of sleep. You are safe. You are renewed. May you be held by the solidity of the pyramids, guided by the wisdom of the Nile, and protected by the Eye of Horus. Let go of everything and sink deep into sleep. You deserve this rest. But the night in Egypt is vast, and the silence we found in the Pharaoh's chamber is not the only form of peace to be discovered. Even as the king rests, the land around him continues its own slow, sacred rhythm. Let us leave the heavy stone embrace of the palace. Imagine your spirit gently drifting upward, passing beyond the thick walls, beyond the vigilant guards, and into the open air of the desert night. The air here is cooler, sharper, carrying the faint scent of dry sand and the distant, subdued breath of the Nile River. You are weightless, floating beneath a sky so dark and clear that the stars appear like a thick layer of dust scattered by a divine hand across black velvet. Our journey now leads you along the silent processional avenue, flanked on both sides by rows of colossal silent sphinxes, their stone eyes watching the passage of centuries. We are approaching the great temple of Karnak. By day, this place is alive with priests, offerings, and the noise of construction. But at this hour, it becomes a sanctuary of profound shadows. The massive sandstone columns, carved with stories of gods and kings, tower above you in the moonlight. They resemble an ancient forest turned to stone, their tops disappearing into the darkness. The silence here is different. It is not the contained silence of a room, but a vast, open silence that has endured for millennia. It feels ancient, heavy with memory and prayer. Walk slowly through this forest of stone. Feel the cool air brushing gently against your skin. There is no one here but you and the gods who dwell within the carvings. As you move deeper into the temple complex, past the massive pylons that block out the mortal world, you notice tiny, warm flickers of light in the distance. These are not electric lights, sharp and intrusive. They are small oil lamps, their flames dancing gently in bowls of alabaster or simple pottery. These lights mark the presence of the night priests, the watchers of the hours. Their duty is sacred and simple, to keep the divine flame burning through the deepest darkness, ensuring that light is never truly extinguished until Ra returns at dawn. They move like ghosts, silent and slow, their white linen robes practically glowing in the soft firelight. Imagine sitting quietly in a corner of an open courtyard, watching one of these priests. He sits perfectly still before a small shrine, his eyes half closed in deep meditation. The only sound is the faint sputtering of the oil lamp and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the man. The smell of burning oil mixes with the lingering scent of the day's incense, frankincense from distant lands. This is a peace born of duty and devotion. The priest isn't sleeping, yet he is in a state of rest deeper than most sleep. He is holding the space, a silent guardian of the temple's heart. Watching him, you feel your own breathing slow down to match his steady rhythm. The warmth of the tiny flame seems to reach you across the courtyard, a comforting anchor in the vast, cool night. Now, let your gaze drift upward, past the stone lintels of the temple, to the sky above. The ancient Egyptians were master astronomers. They didn't just see stars, they saw a cosmic map, a divine clockwork that governed their lives and their afterlife. Look at that expanse. Without modern light pollution, the Milky Way is a bright, churning river of light cutting across the sky, a celestial mirror to the Nile flowing below. The Egyptians called it the winding waterway, the path souls would travel after death. They saw constellations too, though different from ours. There is Orion, who they saw as Osiris, the god of the underworld and rebirth, striding across the southern sky. Seeing him was a nightly reassurance that life, death, and rebirth were in balance. And there, the imperishable stars around the North Pole, the ones that never set below the horizon. To the Egyptians, these stars were symbols of eternity, of souls that had achieved immortality. Lying on your back in the temple courtyard, looking up at this silent, majestic display, your own worries feel incredibly small. The stars have been there for millions of years. They have watched pharaohs rise and fall, empires crumble to dust, and yet they remain bright and unchanged. Let that sense of immense, slow time wash over you. You are a tiny, precious part of this vast, eternal machine. There is nothing you need to do right now, but lie back and let the universe hold you. Leaving the temple, we are drawn back to the source of all life in this land, the Nile River. We board a small, simple wooden boat, a felucca. There is no engine, only a tall, curved sail that catches the soft night breeze. The boat pushes off from the bank with a soft, liquid sound. The water is like black glass, reflecting the fractured light of the moon and the stars. We drift out into the middle of the river, away from the banks. The only sound now is the gentle lapping of water against the wooden hull. A hypnotic, rhythmic lap, lap, lap that has lulled people to sleep for 5,000 years. The breeze here is steadier, cooler. It carries the distinct earthy smell of the fertile mud that brings life to the valley every year. It's a primal scent, grounding and rich. You lie back on the deck on a simple mat, feeling the gentle rocking motion of the boat. It's a movement almost like being cradled. On the distant banks, you see the faint glow of small cooking fires from villages. They are tiny orange dots in the darkness, reminders of the simple, quiet lives of the farmers and fishermen who are now resting, just like you. The river flows, carrying you slowly northward, carrying the silt, carrying the history. You don't need to steer. The current knows the way. Just drift. As we float further down the Nile, the landscape changes. We pass areas where the desert cliffs come right down to the water's edge, towering monoliths of rock illuminated by the moon. In other places, thick groves of date palms line the banks, their feathery fronds silhouetted against the sky like black lace, rustling softly in the wind. This is the heart of the land, the rhythm that sustains everything. You realize that the peace of Egypt isn't just in the pharaoh's secure chamber, it's in this eternal flow. The river doesn't rush. It moves with a slow, massive certainty. It has seen everything, and it keeps flowing. This is the ultimate lesson of the Egyptian night. Surrender to the flow. You cannot stop the river. You cannot hurry the dawn, and you cannot force sleep. You can only prepare your vessel, your body and mind. Hoist your sail to catch the gentle breeze of relaxation, and push off from the shore of wakefulness. Let the current take you. Feel the water supporting the boat, and the boat supporting you. There is no effort needed now. The journey is happening on its own. You are safe on the eternal river, drifting towards a deeper, darker, more restorative sea of sleep. The current of the Nile gently guides our boat toward a quiet shore near a massive walled compound. We step off the boat, leaving the soft sound of the water behind, and enter the Per-Ankh, the House of Life. This is the ancient library and university attached to the temple, the sanctuary of scribes and keepers of secrets. If the desert is the silence of nature, this place holds the silence of knowledge. The air here is dry and smells distinctly of old papyrus, cedarwood shelves, and drying ink. It is a comforting intellectual scent, the smell of thousands of years of wisdom resting quietly. Walk down the long shadowed corridors lined with scrolls. Imagine the millions of words sleeping here. Spells for healing, maps of the stars, histories of kings long gone. In this room, there is no need for speech. The loudest sound is the scratch of a reed pen on papyrus from a lone scribe working late by candlelight in a distant corner. Being here reminds you that you don't need to hold all the answers in your mind right now. The wisdom of the world is stored safely. You can put down the burden of thinking, planning, and worrying. It is all written down. It is all safe. Your mind can stop working now. It is time to close the internal book and let the dust settle. We leave the House of Life and move further west, away from the river, away from the temples, toward the edge of the great sand sea. This is the Red Land, Dustrit, the domain of chaos, but also of absolute, untouched purity. Stand at the edge of the dunes. Before you lies an ocean of sand, undulating in frozen waves under the moonlight. The silence here is absolute. There are no crickets, no water, no wind, just the profound stillness of the earth itself. It is a vacuum of sound that absorbs everything. This vast emptiness is not frightening, it is cleansing. It feels as though the desert is a giant sponge, soaking up any remaining tension in your body. The sand retains the warmth of the day, radiating a gentle, dry heat that rises up to meet the cool night air. Imagine lying down in the soft curve of a dune, shaped perfectly to hold you. The sand supports every inch of your body, heavy and warm. You are a single grain of sand in a limitless desert, completely anonymous, completely free of responsibility. In the distance, guarding the horizon between the desert and the city, sits the Great Sphinx. Even in the darkness, its silhouette is unmistakable, the body of a lion, the head of a king. For thousands of years, this guardian has sat with its eyes open, facing the east, waiting for the sun. It is the ultimate symbol of patience and vigilance. It never sleeps so that you can. It watches the horizon with an unblinking gaze, protecting the sanctity of the necropolis and the sleeping city behind it. Feel the presence of that massive guardian. You don't need to be alert. You don't need to watch the door or check the phone. The Sphinx is on guard. The protective spirits we spoke of, Bez, Taweret, the Eye of Horus, are all at their posts. The security of the night is total. You can relinquish your own vigilance. Let the stone lion take the watch. Your shift is over. The night has deepened to its fullest point. The moon is high and bright, casting a silver path across the world we have explored. From the elevated bed in the Pharaoh stone chamber, past the silent priests in the Karnak temple, drifting down the rhythmic Nile, through the scent of old papyrus, and finally here, to the quiet sands. All these places share one thing: rhythm. The rhythm of the river, the rhythm of the stars turning, the rhythm of the breath. You are now part of that ancient rhythm. Your body is heavy, sinking into the mattress as if it were the warm sands of Egypt. Your breath is slow and steady, like the flow of the Nile. Your mind is quiet and protected, like the sealed chamber of the king. The journey is complete. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing else to see. The doors of the senses are gently closing, one by one. And so, we leave you here, safe in the embrace of the ancient night. The darkness is not empty. It is a velvet blanket, woven with stars and protection. As my voice fades, let the sound of the wind and the water take over. Let them carry you through the remaining hours of the night. You are the Pharaoh of your own dreams, the ruler of your own peace. Ra continues his journey in the underworld, fighting the chaos so you don't have to. The sun will rise tomorrow, inevitably and beautifully. But for now, the world belongs to the night. Sleep now, deep, ancient, timeless sleep. Good night.